to me, it's the sort of thing that druggy people come up with. Oh, well, I suppose if he sees the children, it's manipulative, it's devious, it's insulting that any responsible human being would say, oh, well, now that I've seen a photograph of my grandchildren, or I've seen them, oh, I've got to surrender everything that I know to be correct and right so that I can have this ghastly couple manipulate me into seeing the grandchildren. I'm afraid that's not how life works. And the royal family is practicing 12-step loving detachment with Harry.
Lady Colin Campbell, Prince Harry trying to entrap King Charles and Prince William. Now, you know exactly how royal diaries work. You know exactly how invitations have to be granted. Can you just explain to everyone, Lady C, how it is completely uncouth and goes against every single royal code to announce via the tabloid media that you were intending on inviting your father and brother to the Invictus Games in order to try and bounce them into accepting the invitation? It's like, does this guy never learn? If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address, and sign up today.
Well, he's learned from the past mistress of manipulation. So he may not have learned from a past mistress of success, but he's learned from a past mistress of manipulation. And insofar as he and Meghan are concerned, their immediate concern is that they are fighting for their commercial survival vis-a-vis Netflix, and they need to be in the news as much as possible, and it all needs to be as positive as possible, and it all needs to be conveying the message that they have royal status and the prestige that goes along with royal status. And Harry no longer has many connections which allow him to play the royal status card. He certainly can't do it with Santa Barley. He's not able to do it with African parks. So who else is he doing it with except Invictus? And you and I, Dan, know that royal diaries are set 6 months in advance. Well, Invictus is not 6 months in advance. Invictus is much further than 6 months in advance. And also, the idea that you would have not only the King, but the Prince of Wales both attending. And Harry will know as well as I do, and I presume you do as well, that you only ever ask one royal, unless they're a married couple, and you can ask somebody, if they decline it, who ranks above them. But you can't ask somebody who ranks below them. Well, Harry is pretending that he is going to ask both his father and his brother. Well, I'm afraid that right there is breaking a host of rules. And the reality as well is that their diaries are not going to be done so far ahead. And even if they were being done so far ahead, the Invictus Games is not of sufficient interest to the monarchy to have both the king and the heir to the throne showing up to rescue the prodigal son, who is constantly briefing against both of them and who both of them deplore. It's a con. It's another con. It's a PR con. That's my view on it.
And isn't the extraordinary thing, Lady C, that Harry had no issues with scheduling the Invictus Games to clash with the Queen's 80th birthday, yet now he expects his father to drop everything to be there.
His father won't drop everything to be there. I mean, to me, it would be an absolute miracle if either his father or his brother showed up. I mean, I think this is yet another cack-handed, crass, vulgar attempt to get themselves more publicity and to make dupes in Hollywood and on the Netflix board and in Us Weekly and other rags to think that Harry still has regal relevance. I don't think it. I think it's just another con job. I'm sorry. I just don't see that it can be anything else.
And at this point, Lady C, we have to assume that Harry will attend the Invictus Games solo anyway, without his two children, which would maybe be the motivation for Charles to go. But at the same time, he's not going to want to have his first meeting with his grandchildren in years in public, is he?
I don't see why he would go along with it. I mean, the whole thing is farcical now. I mean, if Harry wants Charles to see his grandchildren, he can bring them over. I mean, I don't know why he would be so worried about their security when he clearly isn't worried about his own. And nobody basically knows what the children look like. And quite frankly, nobody cares to harm the children. Nobody has anything against the children. That's another red herring. It's one con after the other. It's one pretense after the other. It's one lie. It's one manipulation after the other. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting mightily fed up with Harry and Meghan thinking that everybody's so stupid that people are going to believe that they are shades of Elena Ceausescu, who during the communist regime in Romania set herself up as a scientist, even though she was illiterate. And so every scientific paper that was published had to say that it was by Professor Dr. the brilliant Elena Ceausescu. And of course, that didn't end well for her. And I think we're seeing a similar thing at the moment. It's just all rubbish. Sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, does Harry even understand his father anymore these days, Lady C? Because the reporting from the Daily Mail has been that, oh, the reason Harry gave in to Meghan Markle and allowed all of these Instagram videos to go up of the children is because he's so distraught about Charles ignoring all of his phone calls that he wants Charles to see these videos and feel some type of deep sense of pain, and that might make Charles reach out. And to me, that feels so delusional on so many fronts. I mean, firstly, the idea that King Charles is even looking at these Instagram videos. Secondly, that he cares given that the children's faces are all concealed. And thirdly, Charles is quite a strong guy, so I don't think whether he sees these Instagram videos or not, it's going to change his overall strategy, which for the moment is not to increase his stress levels by dealing with his wayward younger son as he's going through very, very serious cancer treatment.
That's right, and will continue to do so. I mean, he's not going to need more stress. He's going to need less stress as all of his treatments continue and as his life proceeds. And but this again is, I think, very delusional. One could even say, to me, it's the sort of thing that druggy people come up with. Oh, well, I suppose if he sees the children, it's manipulative, it's devious, it's insulting that any responsible human being would say, oh, well, now that I've seen a photograph of my grandchildren, or I've seen them, oh, I've got to surrender everything that I know to be correct and right so that I can have this ghastly couple manipulate me into seeing the grandchildren. I'm afraid that's not how life works. And The royal family is practicing 12-step loving detachment with Harry. And that's what they should be doing. But Harry and Meghan are both devious and manipulative and trying to work their way around the loving detachment that is being practiced by his family. And I think as long as they keep on practicing loving detachment, Harry and Meghan are not going to be able to work their way around the family, because 12-step loving detachment means that you will not budge and you will not allow the person who is trying to manipulate you to get away with manipulating.
Well, it's very interesting you say that, Lady Colin Campbell, because Roy and Nika in the Sunday Times was out with a big new investigation into Prince William at the weekend. And she made the point that William is no longer particularly angry with Harry, but he just doesn't really focus on him at all. So let me just read you out what she reported, then I'll get your reaction, Lady C. She wrote, "The gulf remains between William and Harry, estranged brothers who have not seen or spoken to each other since their grandmother's funeral in September 2022. The Sussexes split from the royal family in 2020, and the subsequent fallout has probably forever divided two brothers who were once the closest of kin. Harry's recent interview with the BBC, when he claimed he would love a reconciliation with my family while firing verbal missiles at them in the same broadcast, did little to thaw the family freeze. But those closest to William have noticed a marked recent shift. Where he once raged at his brother's outbursts after the publication of Spare, a friend told me he thought he was determined not to publicly respond, even though inside he's burning. That anger has subsided to indifference. A friend tells me what has struck me the most recently is that he just doesn't mention it at all. It used to be that the family stuff was taking up a lot of space in his head. It was a very close relationship and he was very upset. But he's not letting it get to him at all anymore. It is a change, it's sad, but it's a much healthier space for him to be at." She added, though, there is much bemusement in royal circles at this recent report suggesting Harry wants to keep the HRH titles for his children. Under the next reign, roles for Archie and Lily as working royals are unlikely. Well, I think that's the understatement of the year, isn't it, Lady C? I think there's more chance of hell freezing over than Archie and Lily being welcomed into Prince William's court. However, what do you make of this overall reporting from Roy and Nika that William just doesn't speak about Harry anymore? Do we believe that? But first, don't eat breakfast until you learn about caloric bypass. Do you know that your breakfast sets you up for the entire day to either gain weight or lose it? The term breakfast literally means to break your fast that you started the night before. About 4 hours after you eat dinner, your body switches from the nutrients we get from food to the stored glycogen we have in our bodies. Once glycogen stores are depleted, typically after 8 to 12 hours of fasting, the body shifts to burning fat for energy. Fatty acids are released from fat stores, where they are converted into ketone bodies through a process called ketogenesis. Then, when you eat breakfast in the morning, the body starts the cycle again. This is where the caloric bypass comes into play. Dr. Gundry, a heart surgeon in California, learned that if you break your nightly fast with something called MCTs, or medium-chain triglycerides, you can actually keep burning fat throughout the day and use it for energy. But there are specific types of food that contain these MCTs. Using this breakfast breakthrough, he was able to lose 70 pounds just through diet, and he did this in his 60s. So you can find out all about it and his exact method by going to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. That's thehealthyfat.com/outspoken, or click on the link in the description box below or on the QR code which is on screen if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. It is important to remember that everybody's body processes fat differently, and it all depends on your unique metabolic type, which is why in the video he released for my special viewers, he talks all about it. It really is quite fascinating and might change the way you think about health. So go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show.
Yes, I've been saying for some time now that they're practicing loving detachment, which is a 12-step process. And, you know, people don't understand that the royal family is a lot more sophisticated than they give them credit for being. And Prince Philip's aunt, for instance, was a very, very famous psychoanalyst called Princess Marie Bonaparte, who became Princess George of Greece. And she was one of the two lay female psychoanalysts that Freud, and he actually paid to get Freud out of Vienna after the Anschluss. And they are, the late Queen had psychiatric treatment. Princess Margaret had psychiatric treatment. Charles has had therapy. Diana ultimately ended up, thank God, having therapy. You know, they're not unsophisticated, and the families are all, as my family as well, we're all used to people who have drinking problems, substance problems, and you have to learn to cope with it in a civilized and sophisticated and productive way. And ultimately, the 12-step program is really the most sensible way of going down, of coping with it. And what it means is you don't cease loving the person. You simply cease being used and abused and manipulated by the person. And you wish them well, but you will not budge from your stand that you're not going to abuse me, you're not going to take advantage of me, you're not going to, and so it is a way of preventing an addict from actually ending up running rings around you, because that's what addicts often do with those closest to them. And I mean, Harry, by his own account, has had so many issues with drugs and drink that he says he's not an addict. Well, my mother died of alcoholism and said she wasn't an alcoholic. So there's nothing unique about alcoholics and drug addicts saying there that, you know, denying it. Denialism is one of the main things of it. But the family, ultimately, for you to be able to lead a constructive life, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff and go about leading your life in a constructive way and not allowing them to take advantage of you and to take advantage of your compassion for their problems. It's called loving detachment. I mean, anybody who knows anything about the 12-step program will know what I'm speaking about. And it's a very healthy way of going about it. And you let it all happen around you and don't get sucked in. You don't try to force solutions. You don't try to say, oh, well, this is a problem, I need to solve it. No, it's not your problem. They need to solve it. It's a very, very measured, spiritually constructive way of doing things. It's basically based upon, if I remember correctly, St. Vincent de Paul and St. Augustine, who are two saints of the Catholic Church. And it all started because of Dr. whatever his name was. It was an anonymous who created with someone else 12-step program. So it's a wonderful way of dealing with people, but the public may not understand what's going on and why it is the only productive way of dealing with the matter. And so William is doing the absolutely right thing. It's not his problem, it's Harry's problem. But I can tell you something, I speak from experience, because William and I have a lot in common in many ways. Neither of us is going to put up with too much BS. And there will come a point where we say, absolutely not, sink or swim. You're going to sink, sink. I regret it, but I am not going to rescue. You need to rescue yourself. And that is a very positive way to go about dealing with people like Harry and Meghan.
And I don't think anyone, well, I'm sure some people do, but certainly I don't criticize William at all. I think he's absolutely taking the right approach, but it's fascinating hearing that insight. Lady C, I just wanted to play you finally what P. Diner our friend, who I'm told, by the way, is coming over to the UK again for the social event of the year, your summer ball, which I'm very, very excited about next week. But she's done some reporting on this whole issue too. And I just wanted you to have a look at it and get your response.
Embarrassing, I think, for the king, should something like this get out. But what people don't understand is that there are people that have access to the things that are happening, that it gets out in a secretive way amongst this small elite of people, and people talk about it. And so a source has reached out, and I've been privy from 2 separate sources of some information that I glean to be real and to be true, because it makes sense. Let's just go back to the history of what we do know about Harry. Okay, we do know that Harry's been very vocal about his alcohol and his drug use, and how he uses drugs to mask his anxieties and his past grief with the death of his mother. We know that he talked about in his book Spare how he relied on alcohol and drugs to mask how he felt amid panic attacks after his mom's death. He said, Harry's words, he was willing to drink, he was willing to take drugs, he was willing to try and do things that made him feel like he was actually feeling. He didn't like feeling the way he felt. And that's generally what happens with people who don't want to feel the pain when people have trauma. They want to take these drugs to mask the feeling of life's realities. There's a history there. There's a history of Harry not being able to cope with life in general. And he has even said, even with that show, The Me You Can't See, he's even said that he was willing to try and do things that made him feel less like he was feeling. And then he also went on to credit Meghan for helping him to seek therapy. Very interesting for a woman who couldn't find therapy to help her with her own thoughts of harming herself. But she was somehow able to really help Harry.
Lady Colin Campbell, what do you make of P. Diner on this?
I think that there's nothing unusual about drug addicts and alcoholics having crises, overdosing, whatever. It's perfectly standard. And I'll tell you, anybody who's practicing the 12-step program knows, let go and let God. Don't interfere. If they won't help, they will seek it. Until they do, leave them to wallow in their own mess and mire, because only when they won't help can you actually do anything to assist. And in the meantime, every intervention on your part is going to perpetuate the problem, not solve it. So I think if we put it in that context, do not be surprised if nobody who cares about Harry decides that they're going to try to rescue Harry. Harry needs to rescue himself. And if he doesn't, I'm afraid, ultimately, he will pay the price. Because there are only 3 outcomes to addiction or serious misuse of drugs and drink. The first is recovery, the second is insanity, and the third is death. Those are the choices. And anybody who is sufficiently up on the program knows those are the choices you're dealing with. And no matter how much you love someone, you cannot rescue people unless they want to rescue themselves. So I hope that answers the question.
It does, Lady C. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I can't wait to see you at Castle Goring for the summer ball, which is, of course, in association with Care for Veterans. It's always the highlight of the summer, and it will be absolutely brilliant. So I will see you there in person next week.
Wonderful, Dan. Look forward to seeing you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source. and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.